Hello everyone. So in continuation with the earlier lecture, today we will see the matrix solvers. Okay, so matrix is an inherent part of the numerical simulation methods, wherein when we try to solve an equation, so as after the conceptualization of a model, the conceptual model has been converted into a mathematical equation, equivalent mathematical form, and the mathematical equation is now converted into a finite difference form, and then it is discretized into a set of equations. Okay, so once when we get a set of algebraic equations, so we rearrange it into a matrix form. Okay, so based on our earlier activities in this with regard to this course, so we have understood that we will end up in a set of linear equations. Okay, so set of equations means how many number of equations, that depends on the number of nodes that we take, how many number of how many number of grids that we divide the whole domain into, and how many number of unknowns are there in individual nodes. Okay, say for example, for the single phase fluid flow model, you end up in an equation, a diffusivity equation, and that diffusivity equation is having only one unknown, which is pressure. Okay, so the domain, the example problem, we took 5 nodes, excluding the boundary nodes, we had only 3 nodes. Okay, so for every three node, so we have one unknown which has to be calculated, which is pressure. Okay, so finally in that process, we ended up in a 3 x 3 matrix. Okay, suppose in case if we have divided the whole domain into 100 x 100, 100 nodes, excluding the boundary nodes, we will have 98 nodes, and so for every node you will get an equation, and finally it will lead you into a 98 x 98 matrix. Okay, so now the matrix has to be solved. So that's why I told it is an inherent part of the numerical simulation technique. So finally, in this lecture, we will look into the various matrix solvers and different types of solvers. And first, we will start with the introduction to a basic brush up of matrix and matrix properties, and then we'll go into the direct and the iterative solvers. And one of the direct solver, which is most prominently used in numerical simulation in world, which is Thomas algorithm. So that we had already seen, and you can recall it from your earlier notes. Okay, so first, how do we get a matrix? So as I told earlier, so you have a conceptual model like this, and that conceptual model has been transformed into an equivalent mathematical model, something like this form. Okay, so this I took it from the last class, so which is immiscible two-phase fluid flow model. Okay, without considering the means, for some assumptions we had ended up in a equation like this. So it is a steady state equation, and because this temporal derivative is not there, it is a very simple equation. So for this equation, we had divided the whole domain into an I max number of nodes, and excluding the boundary nodes, we had to substitute I is equal to 1 to 7 in the discretized equation. So final discretized equation is like this. Okay, so this is mathematical form, and this is the numerical form. Okay, after transforming this PDE into a finite difference form, and after which means when we approximate it into a finite difference form, and then we end up in an equation like this. Now in this equation holds good for each node. Okay, for this control volume it is applicable, and for this control volume it is applicable. So apply I is equal to 1 here, and then you get an equation. I is equal to 2 here, and then Pi will become P2 of n plus 1. So likewise, and the neighboring elements, this element will become P of I plus 1, which is now I is equal to 2 means then it will be 3. So P of 1, P of 2, and P of 3 is equal to B of I. Okay, so like this we will get. So for every node, we will, when we substitute I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, we get 7 set of equations, and that 7 set of equations can be rearranged into a matrix form. Okay, so say for example like this, you get n number of, you have a n number of unknown nodes, and for n number of unknown nodes, you will get n number of equations like this, and this equation can be rewritten in this form: ax is equal to b form, and so we will get into a matrix. Okay, so these are the examples from our earlier exercises. Any single phase flow problem. The first exercise which we did, single phase fluid flow problem, equation was like this, and any one dimensional problem will lead you into a matrix system of like this. Like in two phase flow also, when we try to solve it using impulse is a sequential solver. Even though there were two unknowns in this equation, we linearize it by assuming the coefficient values, means assuming the second unknown, dou s by dou t, s and p are the two unknowns, and s saturation we assume, and then we linearize this equation and then calculate the pressure. So even though it has two unknowns, so we make it as a make it into one, make the unknowns into one by assuming one other variable, so which we have extensively discussed in the earlier classes. So we did not go into much of the details of impulse. You can watch the impulse video if you have doubt in this. Okay, so we linearize it and then we make it as a one unknown. Now it is becoming like this, like the single phase fluid flow equation. And so essentially the point is we have only one unknown here, and we have n number of unknown nodes. For every node you will get an equation. So the discretized form is involving one earlier node and one later node. Okay, I and I minus 1 and I plus 1. So every stencil will involve only these three nodes. So they're red colored nodes. Say for example, this is shape fill. Say for example, I, this is a node of interest. Now we are substituting this, getting the equation, means we are in the process of getting the pressure of ith node. It will involve I plus 1 node and I minus 1 node. Okay, so from this equation you can see I plus 1 and I minus 1, even though there are other nodes. Okay, so the entries corresponding to the pressure of other nodes are not directly influencing this node. So only the neighboring node pressure, immediate neighbor is playing a role in governing the pressure of this current node. Okay, so that is why, so even though we get a n number of equations, and then we can make it into a n cross n matrix form. Ax is equal to b, and the coefficient matrix A will have a n cross n matrix. I mean size of size n cross n. It will not involve the other nodes. Okay, so like say for example p I is equal to 2. So 2 minus 1 is 1, which is the boundary node, and so which we know the boundary condition that will go to the right. And the unknown values are pressure at 2 and 2 plus 1 3. So you will have only these two entries. The other entities in the matrix will be 0, because it is, as per our equation, it is not playing role in the pressure at second node. Okay, so so the same format is applicable for all other nodes, and so you will get entries other than I plus 1 and I minus 1s as R0. Okay, so essentially we end up in a tridiagonal matrix. And how do we solve this tridiagonal matrix also we had discussed. Okay, so this is a type of matrix we will end up in. So that's the final point which I would like to make in this slide. Okay, so for this case of, for these and these cases, we had already tried to solve this problem. So we ended up in an equation of this form. And another example means you just want to understand when the physics is changing, how the matrix is changing. That's what I want to make here. In case if it is a two-dimensional problem, so where the equation will become like this. So like dou square p by dou x square term, there will be another term for dou square p by dou y square. Okay, so the whole domain is in aerial view. It is like this, and we divide the domain into I and j. Okay, so I and j, you will have ith node vectors, means I nodes and also j nodes. Okay, so for any node of our interest, say I here, the pressure or the dependent variable is dependent on the immediate neighbors. Okay, all the four nodes immediately around the ith node will govern the pressure or the value of the dependent variable. Okay, so as per this equation, so I'm not telling it myself. As per the equation, if you apply Taylor series and if you convert it into a finite difference form, this will lead us into I plus 1. Means I means x directional nodes are I and the y directional nodes are j. Okay, so that's what I and j. That's how we discretize the equation. And we give the indices in that format. So all the x directional nodes are I. So you can see here x directional nodes are I and represented as I in the computational domain, and y directional nodes are represented in the j in the computational domain. Okay, x and y are the physical domain, and that we are transforming into a computational domain before we go in, into this numerical form. So that is the first step that we do in any numerical process. Okay, so so unlike earlier case, in this case, now in case of two dimensional problems, we will have dou square p by dou x square term also. Okay, so when we apply Taylor series, we have to apply Taylor series for this equation, this term, dou square p by dou x square term, and also for dou square p by dou y square term. So that discretization will involve all these all these four nodes. Okay, so every computational stencil will involve 1 minute. Shape fill, form fill. Every computational stencil will involve these four neighboring nodes and the main the node of concern. So these five nodes. Uh, so you will have five uh, unknown nodes. Okay, so this equation will lead us into p of I minus 1, p of I, and p of I plus 1, and p of j minus 1 and p of j plus 1. Okay, so we will get five unknown pressure nodes, and so you will end up in a okay, n cross n matrix with five entries. So which means five pentadiagonal matrix we will end up. So how we will reach into this kind of matrix? We had done it in our class also. You can cross check with our class notes. You can go back and see the class notes. We reached to a matrix of this form, something like this. One main diagonal was there, and immediate upper diagonal and lower diagonal were there, and after some two space, two blank diagonals, and then we had one upper diagonal and the lower diagonals. Okay, we had five diagonals. Okay, that's why it is called pentadiagonal matrix. Okay, so now you can understand depending on the type of equation which we end up, the matrix system also will vary. Okay, so it is banded. It is following some structure, and it is called banded matrix. And not all the times we will end up in a banded matrix. Okay, for if you are dealing with some complex equations, complex physics, when we try to write a equivalent mathematical form for any complex physics, then you will end up in a different type of matrix, and where the entries will be present in a scattered manner. Okay, so anywhere in this is a matrix form. Okay, this is a matrix of 20 cross 20, a matrix. Okay, so we will get entries somewhere scattered. So those kind of matrix are called sparse matrix. So how do we solve those matrix. Okay, depending on the type of matrix we will end up, we have to choose uh, a solver for that. Okay, so Gauss elimination method. Gauss elimination method is a direct solver. You can apply for any type of matrix, because the ideology of the Gauss elimination method is you make either the lower diagonal entries or the upper diagonal entries as zero. During the forward sweep, you make all the lower diagonal entries from here. So any entries below the line drawn is made zero. Okay, so this is the main diagonal. So any entries below the main diagonal are made zero. Okay, so any entries below the main diagonal are made zero during the forward sweep by applying. So I repeat, any entries below the main diagonal elements are made zero. Okay, so these entries are made zero by matrix operation. You can cross multiply and do the matrix operation and make the lower entries as zero during the forward sweep. And during the reverse sweep, what happens? The last entry is equal is uh, a of 2020 into p of 20 is equal to some value c20. Ax is equal to b form if you conceptualize. So it has only one unknown, and then you can directly get the pressure of the 20th node. Okay, and in the reverse sweep you calculate the pressure directly. So that's what Gauss elimination method is. And tridiagonal matrix algorithm is, we know it is a modified Gauss elimination method, where you need not you know that you have only the main diagonal and the lower diagonal and the upper diagonal entries, and other entries here, all other entries uh, all other entries in the matrix are zero, and so we do not want to waste our computational. So here this 10 comma 1, 10 cross 10 comma 1 node, this node value is 0, or likewise other empty nodes are 0. We do not want to waste our time in making 0 as 0 again by following the Gauss elimination method. That will consume our computational time. And so the Gauss elimination method is rewritten for a tridiagonal matrix form, so that we will try to make only the 2 comma 1 node value as 0, and after making this we will go to 3 comma 2, and after making 3 comma 2 node as 0, and the next step is making the 4 comma 3 node as 0. So likewise it progresses, and so we minimize the computations time by not consider doing the Gauss elimination method for these nodes. So all the zero nodes. Okay, it is means pointless. There is no point in wasting our time in making 0 as 0 again. Okay, so that's the idea. And so the Gauss elimination method was rewritten for a tridiagonal system, and it is called tridiagonal matrix algorithm or Thomas algorithm. So an exercise for this also has been done already. So you should be means I'm doing means I'm just recalling things, and so I'm moving faster here. Likewise, for pentadiagonal matrix also, we can rewrite. So this is a pentadiagonal matrix. For pentadiagonal matrix also, you can rewrite the Gauss elimination method for the only the entries of the pentadiagonal matrix. Okay, rest of the nodes you need not repeat the calculation for making the 0 again 0. Okay, so only for the entries which were present in the matrix, we can rewrite the Gauss elimination method, and then we can proceed. Means we can rewrite the tridiagonal matrix algorithm for a pentadiagonal matrix. Okay, so these are the direct solvers. You will directly get the answer in a single step. You will get the pressure values. Okay, so only problem is the computational time. In case of a sparse matrix, we do not. It is not possible for us to locate the how the means where the entries are present. So it is banded. It is following a structure when your entries are not in a structured manner, it is present scattered in the matrix. So it is not possible for us to apply a, a structured way of solving, like what we do for a tridiagonal matrix is tridiagonal matrix algorithm, or a pentadiagonal matrix algorithm or solver. We cannot apply the Gauss elimination method specific to the sparse matrix system, because the entries are scattered in the matrix. Okay, so and applying Gauss elimination method also will consume a lot of time. Okay, so in for such cases only, we look forward for a special type of matrix solvers, and so we ended up in a iterative solver. Okay, iterative solvers is another classification of solvers, wherein we directly means by means of a Gauss elimination method, you directly get the pressure, directly get the unknown value. Wherein in case of iterative solvers, we assume the values first. Ax is equal to b. That x vector is what we want to find. That x vector is assumed initially, and then the assumed value is checked whether it is whether the assumption is correct or not, and then on iteration the assumed value is getting improved, and then it reaches the convergence. Once how it is happening, we will see through an example in the coming slides. Okay, so okay, so this is again the Gauss elimination method. The idea is Ax is equal to b is transformed into Cx is equal to e, where the coefficient matrix C is a upper diagonal matrix. Okay, so the lower entries are 0, and corresponding to the matrix operation we do here, the right hand side vector b also will change. Finally it will become e. Okay, so if now in the reverse sweep, it is 0 into 0, 0 into x1, 0 into x3, 0 into x2, 0 into x3. Likewise, if you rewrite into equation form, finally it is cnn into xn is equal to en. So directly we get xn is equal to en by cnn. Okay, so now we have calculated xn, and in the next step it will involve xn minus 1 and xn value, and now xn has been calculated. Substitute that here, and then you get xn minus 1. So during the reverse sweep, you calculate the unknown vector. So that's what Gauss elimination method is. So this is a direct solver. And iterative solver is, this is a type of say for example, these are the set of linear equations. Okay, you have four unknowns. Let us say you have four unknowns, and so you have four equations, and that four equations can be solved iteratively by assuming x1, x2, x3, and x4. Initially make an assumption, and based on the assumption you calculate again x1. So this equation 1 can be rewritten like this. Okay, x1 is equal to 1 by a11 into b1 minus, take all the other terms to the right. Okay, so this equation can be rewritten like this. Substitute our assumption here, x1, x2, x3, and x4. Substitute our assumption here, and then as per this equation you will get x1 again. Okay, this is a iteration 1 value. Likewise for other equations also you will get x2, x3, and x4. Okay, so now you have an assumed value, and we have calculated the x1, x2, and x3, x4 now. Okay, so now idea is, if my assumption is correct, if I had made a correct assumption, then assumed x1, x2, x3 should be equal to the computed x1, x2, x3, and x4. Okay, so x vector we have assumed, and if my assumption is correct, it should be equal to the computed x vector. Okay, if it is not matching, if x1 x vector assumed is not equal to x vector computed, then which means that we have made a wrong assumption, and so our assumption has to be updated. Okay, so now in the second iteration, take the computed x1, x2, x vector as the assumed x vector, substitute again here, and do the process again, and then you will get another x vector. Okay, this is in the second iteration. So now our first iteration is correct. Means the second, means the assumption that we make in the second iteration, if it is correct, then it will match with the computer value. If it is not matching, then go for iteration 3. So likewise, you go for n number of iterations. k, say n is will be we will use for iteration k. Okay, so not to confuse, because n we are already using for time nodes. If you are moving for k number of iterations, after k iteration, if my assumed value and computed value are equal, okay, so then the solution has converged. Okay, so it has converged to the exact solution, and finally you reach the actual solution for the set of equations you have. So this is how iterative solvers are done. This is a simple example of iterative solver, and there are other sophisticated iterative solvers also. Okay, so this is the procedure. Initially you make an assumption, assume the x vector, the superscript 0 is iteration k. Okay, so this is a 0th iteration k, and then for the initial assumption, and from the initial assumption get the first, here they have used v, okay, instead of k. For the first iteration you get the value and see whether the computed value and the assumed value are correct or not, which means that if it is equal, the difference is 0. So that's how it is done. This is a mathematical form of convergence which we apply in numerical schemes. Okay, so if my solution has converged, then my assumed value and the um, computed value should be equal. In case of matrix, in order to get it into a single value, we use the summation of individual node difference. Summation of individual node difference. Okay, so if our solution has converged, then again this error should be less than some tolerance value. Not essentially, you cannot make it as equal to 0. If we make it as equal to 0, then the system will try to reach 0 value. So that will take a lot of consume more number of iteration steps. So we fix a tolerance value. If my error is less than, say for example, 0.0001, okay, so 0.001 is almost equal to 0, depending on the accuracy we are expecting. If I am expecting more accuracy, then I will make tolerance value as 1 into 10 power minus 5, or even more. If it is required, then it will be made as 1 into 10 power minus 10 or minus 15. So then it is not equal to exactly equal to 0, but it is much closer to 0. Okay, so that's all. Because if we make it as equal to 0, then the iteration will go on till it exactly matches with till it means till the assumed value and the computed value exactly matches to 0. Okay, so we fix this tolerance limit, and then if the error is lesser than the tolerance limit, and then our solution has converged. So this is what iterative solver is. So apart from this Gauss elimination and tridiagonal matrix algorithm and pentadiagonal matrix algorithm, there are other direct solvers and other iterative solvers also. So this is a simple example of iterative solver, and this method cannot be is not used in numerical techniques. So there are specific solvers like a conjugate gradient or BiCG stab, by conjugate gradient solver. So these are very sophisticated and advanced solvers which are used in the numerical world. Okay, so numerical simulation world. We will see the outline of CG also in the coming slide. Okay, so 1 minute. So before we go into the solvers, you need to know the basics of matrix. You have to brush up the matrix algebra basics, and so you can go through this material I have shared in Google Class. So you can go through the material and just brush up. So a matrix, what is the definition of a matrix? So M cross N entries. So what is a vector? A row matrix or a column matrix. If n cross 1 or 1 cross n matrix are called as row vector and are called as vectors. Equality of a matrix. how do we add matrix, how do we multiply. So these are okay. How matrix multiplication is done, row into column, and those things. Non-commutative property, AB is not equal to BA. So this is called commutative, non-commutative property. A transpose of transpose, it should be A. So this is one important property of matrix, wherein A transpose and transpose of A transpose is again A. Okay, so there are sometimes we end up in a matrix in our numerical simulation wherein A transpose to the transpose of transpose means A transpose to the transpose means will not lead us to A. Okay, A means A transpose to A transpose will not lead us to A. Okay, those kind of matrix also we will end a very special type of matrix. So when we try to apply our any solver, it will not give a exact solution. It will give some unexpected results also. So that type of matrix wherein A transpose again a transpose is not equal to A. Okay, it is called ill conditioned matrix, and there are some special treatments to make it as conditioned matrix, and then we have to proceed further. So how is an inverse of matrix? Gauss-Jordan method. So this we have done it in our earlier mathematics lectures. So you can just go revise it. Symmetric, skew symmetric, diagonal matrix, triangular matrix, identity matrix, null matrix. These matrix will end up in diagonal matrix. We will see often, and triangular matrix, null matrix, Hermitian matrix. We can go through this PDF. Okay, so a quadratic form of a matrix. A quadratic form of matrix means x be, let x be any vector, and the quadratic form of matrix A is x transpose A into x. Okay. Okay, so this is the one main thing which you want to know in this PPT. And for conjugate gradient, we will use this. So finally, a quadratic form of a matrix will lead us into an equation like this. X is in terms of a quadratic equation like this. Say, for example, A is any matrix, and if you are making any point in the domain X, let it be in case of, okay, we will come to this in during our conjugate gradient. That time you may better understand that. Okay, as I told you, there are other direct solvers also apart from our Gauss elimination method, tridiagonal matrix algorithm, and pentadiagonal matrix algorithm. And so LU decomposition is one direct solving technique wherein the coefficient matrix A is decomposed into a lower diagonal matrix and an upper diagonal matrix of this form. Okay, so the upper diagonal matrix. So the matrix operation are performed in such a way that the upper diagonal matrix will have entries like this, and the lower diagonal matrix will have main diagonal elements as 1, and the lower diagonal correspondingly lower diagonal elements will be there. Okay, so if we multiply A, L and U, you will get the A matrix. Okay, so this A matrix is decomposed into L and U. Okay, so this L and U, if we multiply, we will end up in A matrix again. Okay, so that's the idea. So how is it useful in during the matrix inversion? Okay, we want to find how to means we want to solve linear set of equations. For that, inversion is done. Ax is equal to b, and x is the unknown, so x is equal to A inverse of b. Finding A inverse is a very complicated thing when the entries, the size of the matrix is increasing. If you have a 100 cross 100 matrix, finding A inverse is itself is a very it's very complex. Okay, when you try to write it as a code also, it is very, if you use computers also, by numerical techniques also, it is very tedious, and it is very complex to calculate A inverse directly, like what we do for a smaller matrix in our matrix algebra. You calculate 1 by adjoint of A into 1 by modulus of A into adjoint of A. So that method you cannot apply here for a matrix of size 100 cross 100, or sometimes if you for our reservoir simulation problems, we divide the whole domain into 1 lakh node in 1 lakh nodes. Okay, so that time you will get 1 lakh into 1 lakh size matrix. So we cannot apply that technique to get a inverse. Okay, so that will be very complex, and so we have to apply some techniques. Okay, so that inversion can be done using LU decomposition. So how we do this? So this is an example of LU decomposition. So this is a matrix A. Okay, by applying this row operations, we can transform this equation into this matrix into in this form. Okay, like an upper diagonal element. So we follow this row operations to transform this A matrix into upper diagonal matrix like this. Okay, so like this: A11, A12, A22, A23, A33. Okay, the idea is you want to make 64 as 0, 144 as 0, and 12 as 0. Okay, so we have made the first row is not changed here, only 64 has become 0 here, and 144 has become 0 here, and 12 has become 0 here. So in order to make this, we have to make some row operations, and those row operations are here. Okay, you can understand this. We have done this in Gauss elimination method. This is basically a Gauss elimination method only, and equivalent to that, this is the lower diagonal entry. So these are the low operations for the lower diagonal matrix, and now you have LU. If you multiply this, if you multiply this L and U matrix, you will get A matrix. So that's the idea. So now you have decomposed into L and U. Okay, that is fine. How is it useful to calculate X? So that's what is a question here. So say A is decomposed into L and U. Okay, so AX is equal to B. Now has become LUX is equal to B. Okay, LU into X is equal to B, and make U and X as Z. Assume that U and X as Z, and first calculate Z from LZ is equal to B. Okay, so it is a lower diagonal matrix, and the lower diagonal matrix will look like this. Okay, it's looking like this, and during the forward sweep, you will get Z, right? Z value you will get during forward substitution. Okay, and now Z is nothing but Ux is equal to B. Z is nothing but Ux, upper diagonal matrix into U. Again, this U is nothing but the upper diagonal matrix, and during by reverse substitution, you will get X. Okay, so that is what the philosophy is. You can see an example here. A is split into U and V, L and U, and initially you make, so Ax is equal to B is written like LU Z is equal to B, and U into X is made as assumed as Z, and LZ is equal to B is calculated here. Now you get the Z vector here, and now Z vector is nothing but Ux is equal to Z. Okay, Ux. So now again do the reverse sweeping, and you directly get the X value. So this is LU decomposition. There are other factorization techniques also, Cholesky factorization. So the idea is LU. Again, Cholesky factorization means you have to decompose a matrix into LU, and here in LU decomposition, L and U are nowhere related. Okay, so for any matrix, you get a lower diagonal matrix and the upper diagonal matrix. The only one condition is in the lower diagonal matrix, the main diagonal entries are made as 1. Okay, you fix we want to make the main diagonal entries as 1, and then we proceed further. Okay, so that's a condition for LU. But in case of Cholesky decomposition, U matrix, after decomposing, the U matrix is nothing but the transpose of L. Okay, so all the matrix operations are done in that perspective. Okay, so that's what is Cholesky factorization. So these are the means the steps, the matrix steps involved for Cholesky factorization. And this is an example. You can try this example in your notebook. Okay.